One name that's unexpectedly stirred up conversation in recent days around the NBA is CJ McCollum. The veteran guard, now 33 and set to turn 34 in September, is reportedly being considered as a buyout candidate. And naturally, this sparked serious interest among teams looking for reliable depth, especially teams like the Los Angeles Lakers, who are in clear winnow mode. At first glance, the idea of adding a player like McCollum might raise some eyebrows. After all, he's not known for his defense, he's got some mileage on his legs, and health has been an occasional concern. But once you really dig into the numbers and what he still brings to the table, this starts to feel less like a gamble and more like a sneaky smart opportunity. Let's break it down. CJ McCollum has quietly been one of the most consistent and efficient scorers in the league for over a decade. That's no exaggeration. That's just fact. Ever since his third year in the league, McCollum has been automatic for 20 points per game or more. It doesn't matter if he's the second option, the third, or even sharing the floor with a ball-dominant superstar. The production is there. This past season with the New Orleans Pelicans, even in a somewhat chaotic and inconsistent team situation, he still averaged 21.1 points, 4 assists, and 4 rebounds per game. That level of steady contribution, especially from a guy who could potentially come off the bench for the Lakers, is not something you can just find lying around. And here's the thing. CJ isn't just padding stats on low volume. He's doing it efficiently and with real responsibility. In the 2023-2024 season, he shot over 44% from the field and knocked down 37.3% of his three-pointers on 8.2 attempts per game. That's high-volume, high-efficiency perimeter shooting, a rare and valuable combination in today's NBA. Just the season before, he was hitting over 43% from deep on more than 8 shots a night. We're talking about a player who, even in what some would consider a down year, was still a deadly threat from beyond the arc. That's not something the Lakers have had consistently from the guard position. Imagine slotting a player like that into a Lakers rotation that desperately needs bench scoring. Last year, the Lakers had one of the worst bench units in the league, not just defensively, but in terms of offensive production. They finished near the bottom in bench points per game, and outside of a few flashes from younger players, there was very little consistency when the starters sat down. Adding McCollum doesn't just give you another scorer. It gives you a guy who can run the offense play on or off the ball and give you 15 to 20 points on any given night without needing to dominate the game plan. Now is CJ McCollum a perfect fit? Of course not. Nobody's pretending he solves all of LA's problems. The team still needs perimeter defense size on the wing and some long-term clarity at the point guard position. But McCollum brings something the Lakers badly need: reliability. He's a guy who, even as he ages, continues to show that he understands how to play within a system, how to maximize his touches, and how to pick his spots. And more importantly, he's a player who would likely embrace a bench role at this point in his career. He's not walking into the building expecting to be a number 1 or 2 option. He's walking in to help a team compete and win at the highest level. If you go back through CJ's career, you see a player who has evolved alongside stars and always found a way to contribute. Back in Portland, he played off Damian Lillard and still managed to put up all-star caliber numbers. In New Orleans, even with Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram needing their touches, CJ found his place and produced. That's the kind of basketball IQ and adaptability that winning teams crave. He doesn't need a specific system to be effective. He just needs the opportunity to do what he does best: create space, knock down shots, and keep the offense flowing. And let's talk about his shot profile. CJ is not just a three-point shooter. He's got a deadly mid-range game. He can score off the dribble, and he's capable of creating his own shot in crunch time. He doesn't shy away from big moments. Over the years, he's built a reputation as a guy who can get hot and carry you for a stretch when needed. And while the Lakers don't need him to do that every night, having that ability in your back pocket can be the difference between a tough road loss and a clutch win in the Western Conference. Another underrated element: his playmaking. CJ has averaged about 4 to 5 assists per game throughout most of his career. He's not a traditional point guard, but he's more than capable of running sets, finding open shooters, and creating for others when necessary. He'd bring secondary playmaking that would allow the Lakers to be more creative with their rotations, especially if LeBron James or another primary creator is off the floor. That flexibility could be huge during the regular season grind and, more importantly, in the playoffs where adaptability is everything. And look, the Lakers aren't looking 5 years into the future, they're trying to win now. LeBron isn't getting any younger, and every move from here on out needs to reflect urgency. A veteran like CJ McCollum on a minimum deal or low costs acquisition fits that timeline perfectly. He brings production without requiring long-term commitment or major financial investment. It's the kind of low-risk, high-reward move that contending teams need to seriously consider. Some people might hear his age and immediately write him off, but age doesn't matter nearly as much as availability and impact. And speaking of availability, McCollum has quietly been more durable than people give him credit for. Last season, he played in 56 games. The year before, it was 66. Before that, 75. So yes, while he's not playing a full 82-game slate, he's not constantly sidelined either. If you can get 65 to 70 games out of a guy like McCollum, especially in a reserve role, that's a massive win. And for those worried, how about defense? Fair enough. CJ's never been a lockdown guy on that end. But he's not a total liability either. He averages nearly a steal per game and even chips in with the occasional block. He's smart with his positioning, he knows how to avoid fouls, and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's not going to win you Defensive Player of the Year, but he's not going to lose you games on that end either, especially when surrounded by competent team defenders. Another angle here is the ripple effect. If the Lakers were to add McCollum, it could open up some flexibility elsewhere on the roster. You'd have the confidence to move off certain players or packages in trades because you got a reliable scoring option already in-house. Let's say, hypothetically, the team wanted to make a bold move and ship out someone like Austin Reeves for a major upgrade on the wing. Knowing you've got CJ as a veteran who can slide in and handle some of that offensive workload makes that kind of decision more manageable. Now imagine pairing McCollum with another veteran piece, maybe a big man like Nikola Vucevic in a similar buyout or low-cost deal. Suddenly you're talking about a bench unit with legit firepower playmaking and versatility. In that context, adding someone like Andrew Wiggins via trade becomes even more viable. You free up roster spots, bring in dependable veterans, and shore up your depth in one sweep. None of this happens in isolation, but McCollum could be the first domino. Even if the Lakers didn't go that far, CJ on his own is a solid pickup. He's not going to demand a huge role, he won't disrupt the locker room, and he knows what it takes to contribute to a winning team. He's got playoff experience, he's got leadership qualities, and most importantly, he can still flat out play. His shot from the free throw line last season dipped a bit, around 72%, but that feels more like an anomaly than a red flag. He's a career 80% shooter from the line. The mechanics are there, the confidence is there. And again, we can't ignore the chaos that was the Pelicans season. That whole situation was unstable, and even then CJ still delivered. That speaks volumes. So when you put all this together, the shooting, the efficiency, the playmaking, the experience, the fit, CJ McCollum as a buyout candidate should absolutely be on the Lakers' radar. Not as a savior, not as a game changer, but as a piece, a crucial piece, one that could give them exactly what they've been missing off. The bench. If he's available for cheap, this is the kind of move that can quietly pay off big down the stretch. And while all the signs point to CJ McCollum being a low-risk, high-reward option for the Lakers, let's dive deeper into why this kind of move could change the dynamic of the team far beyond the surface-level stats. First, let's talk about fit. Not just positional, but psychological. The Lakers aren't looking to rebuild. They're not trying to develop raw prospects into stars 5 years from now. This team is built around urgency, around maximizing the final years of LeBron James while trying to bridge the gap with younger pieces like Anthony Davis or maybe even someone like Jalen Hood-Schifino down the line. In that context, add in a player who's already battle-tested, who understands his role and who doesn't need the spotlight to thrive makes a lot of sense. CJ McCollum is not going to come in demanding touches or throwing off the chemistry. He's going to come in, find his role, and execute it. That kind of veteran presence is invaluable when the stakes are high and the margin for error is slim. Second, consider the flexibility he provides in terms of roster construction. The Lakers have been in an awkward place when it comes to depth and rotations. Last season, one of their biggest problems was that anytime LeBron or Anthony Davis had to sit, the offense would grind to a halt. There was no real secondary creation. D'Angelo Russell is streaky. Austin Reeves is still growing into his role. And beyond that, the guard rotation lacks serious punch. CJ McCollum immediately fills that void. He's not just a scorer, he's a creator. He understands how to read defenses, he can run pick and rolls, and he can help stabilize bench units that have been far too chaotic and inconsistent. You're no longer hoping someone gets hot off the bench. You know that CJ is going to come in, give you solid playmaking, and make smart decisions. And that's not to mention what he brings from a spacing standpoint. In today's NBA, floor spacing is everything. The Lakers at times looked completely bogged down offensively because they didn't have enough shooters around LeBron and Davis. Defenses would collapse into the paint, daring them to hit outside shots, and more often than not, it didn't work. Out! With McCollum, you force teams to think twice. You can't just sag off and clog the lane. He's too dangerous from three, and he gets his shot off quickly. That alone changes the geometry of the offense. Suddenly, LeBron has more room to drive. Davis has more space in the post, and even guys like Rui Hachimura or Max Christie benefit from the increased attention CJ demands on the perimeter. What's more, CJ's presence could take pressure off other players who might be stretched too thin. Take Austin Reeves, for example. He's been asked to do a lot: initiate offense, defend top perimeter players, be a secondary ball handler, and shoot efficiently. That's a heavy load for a young player still finding his ceiling. If you bring in McCollum, Reeves can slide into a more natural role, picking his spots instead of trying to force things. Same goes for D'Angelo Russell. If he's still on the roster, having McCollum beside him could ease his responsibilities, and maybe even help him find some rhythm without the burden of being the primary engine on offense. Now let's look at this from a financial and strategic lens. If CJ does get balled out and signs on a veteran minimum, the value proposition is through the roof. You're getting a guy who could easily command $10 to $15 million per year under normal circumstances, but instead you're paying him peanuts relative to his production. That frees up flexibility elsewhere. Suddenly you have the ability to package other contracts in trades, chase mid-season acquisitions, or simply maintain some cushion under the luxury tax threshold, depending on how the front office wants to approach the back half of the season. Another thing to consider is how a player like McCollum can change the tone of the locker room. By all accounts, CJ is a consummate professional. He's smart, he's articulate, and he's a leader. In Portland, he was the voice of reason during some chaotic times. In New Orleans, he took on a mentoring role for younger players like Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. That maturity could be a steadying force in the Lakers locker room that at times has looked disjointed and reactive. With veterans like LeBron and Davis already in place, adding another respected voice, especially one who leads by example, can only help. From a tactical standpoint, CJ also gives Darvin Ham more versatility with lineups. Need more shooting? Put McCollum next to Reeves and LeBron. Need a secondary playmaker? Run him with Gabe Vincent in a two-guard look. Want to play faster in transition? CJ has the handle and vision to push the pace without turning the ball over. He's not a liability when you want to play small, and he can still handle himself defensively when schemes are tight and help rotations are on point. He's never going to be an old defensive team guy, but he's smart, communicates well, and doesn't freelance. In a team-oriented defensive system, he's serviceable enough, and more importantly, he gives you enough on offense that the trade-off is more than worth it. Let's also not forget the kind of playoff experience he brings. CJ McCollum has been in big games. He's won Game 7s. He's hit clutch shots on national television. He's been in the fire, and he hasn't crumbled. That type of postseason poise is something you can't teach. If you're the Lakers and you know that every playoff series is going to come down to details and decision-making and crunch time, why not add someone who's proven he can deliver in those moments? Especially if your young guards haven't fully grown into those roles yet. Now, looking ahead, the potential ripple effect of bringing in CJ McCollum could set the stage for other bigger moves. Let's say the Lakers are eyeing a trade for Andrew Wiggins or another high-salary wing. To do that, they need to free up roster spots and make sure they aren't depleting too much of their bench in the process. If McCollum is already in place suddenly, it becomes easier to part with certain pieces. You don't feel as exposed. You've got a proven scorer and shot creator waiting in the wings, ready to take on more responsibility if needed. That gives the front office flexibility. You can be more aggressive knowing you've got coverage in place. And even if the Lakers don't end up making a blockbuster trade, CJ's presence alone raises the team's floor. Think about the brutal stretches in the regular season. The back-to-backs, the 5 games and 7 nights slogs, the road trips through, the East Coast where guys inevitably sit out. Having McCollum means you're not just surviving those games, you're winning a few of them. He can carry the offense on nights when LeBron rests. He can keep things afloat when AD gets into early foul trouble. He can turn a 6-point deficit into a 10-point lead with a flurry of threes. That matters over the course of an 82-game grind. And don't sleep on how important it is to have a guy who's unselfish and secure in who he is. McCollum doesn't need to be the guy. He's not angling for all-star selections. He's not chasing max contracts. He wants to win. He wants to contribute. He wants to be part of something meaningful. That kind of mindset is infectious. It sets a tone for the younger guys on the roster, and it reinforces a culture of professionalism that has been inconsistent in LA since the 2020 title run. So when you add everything up, the shooting, the experience, the flexibility, the leadership, CJ McCollum starts to look like one of those sneaky pickups that championship teams make before everyone else realizes how important it is. And again, we're talking about a potential vet minimum contract. There's almost no downside here. Worst case, he's your 8th or 9th man, gives you solid minutes, and maybe fades out of the rotation by April. Best case, he's a key piece off the bench who swings playoff games, steadies the second unit, and helps close out tight fourth quarters when defenses clamp down. It's rare in the NBA that you find a move that makes this much sense from so many different angles. But CJ McCollum to the Lakers, if he's bought out, might just be that kind of move. Not the flashiest, not the headline grabber, but the kind of decision that veteran front offices make when they've got their eyes on June. The kind of addition that doesn't just fill a hole, it reinforces the foundation. And once that foundation is set, everything else becomes easier. Rotations settle, stars rest without fear. Lineups click, confidence grows. And when the lights get bright in May and June, you've got one more guy who's been there before, who's done it, and who's ready to do it again. All for a contract that barely dents the cap. Before we continue, we ask that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Lakers updates. Moving on, the basketball world is buzzing with whispers and speculative chatter as the Filipino prodigy Kai Sotto reportedly inks a 4-year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers, one of the most storied franchises in NBA history. This potential signing could be a game changer, not only for the Lakers, but also for the entire basketball community in Asia and beyond. Sotto, often dubbed the Filipino phenomenon, has been on the radar of scouts and analysts due to his towering presence and impressive skill set, which make him a rare talent with the potential to shine on basketball's biggest stage. Although no official announcement has yet been made by the Lakers organization, the rumor mill suggests that the Lakers see in Sotto a player who could develop into a vital piece for their roster, bringing a fresh wave of excitement and a new fan base. For years, the Lakers have been searching for a long-term center who combines size, agility, and basketball IQ, and Sotto's profile fits that mold perfectly. The possibility of a Filipino athlete joining the Lakers would also have immense cultural significance, creating a bridge between American basketball and one of Asia's most passionate basketball countries. The timing of this supposed signing is also a topic of intrigue and discussion among basketball insiders and fans alike. Coming at a moment when the Lakers are reevaluating their roster and eyeing a future that balances veteran leadership with young potential Sotto's arrival could signal a strategic shift in their approach to building a championship contending team. The 4-year length of the contract points to the Lakers' confidence in his growth trajectory, suggesting they envision a player who might initially contribute from the bench but could gradually develop into a starter and key defensive anchor. Analysts speculate that Sotto's height combined with his improving shooting range and defensive timing could give the Lakers a unique edge in the paint, addressing some of the defensive vulnerabilities that have plagued the team in recent seasons.